Hello everyone, this is Ben Brownie from Curious Turtle, and today we're going to look at how we can use Digital Juice to really enhance our infographics. So let's take a look at what we're going to be doing first. So we're going to be taking this little animation here, which is all about identifying different types of coffee, and we've got the simple animatic going on here, and we're going to take that, and by using a animated canvas, some of the Digital Juice textures and Digital Juice fonts, we're going to be turning it into this. And we can transform it into this with a motion background, more compelling textures and animation, which is also going to help as a pronunciation guide. So we can then set this to music, add a bit of voiceover, and we've got a nice, compelling infographic going on. So let's take a look at how we're going to work this out. So let's take a quick look in After Effects and see where we're building from. And I'm just going to solo these layers out as we go. So I've got my my background to begin with. Then I've got just a saucer shape that I've drawn in with an outline as well, and we'll take a look at that. I have a cup. I have some water, foam, milk, and coffee textures which are going to animate on. Boom, 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 boom. And we'll build all this up as well. I have my outline here too, and then my various pieces of text popping on. And also some hand-drawn little elements going on here. So the sort of look that I want to go for in this is a bit more kind of handmade, handcrafted, almost as if I was out with my scissors cutting through loads of paper and giving it that kind of illustrative kind of feel. And the basis for this, let's just come in and duplicate my comp up here. And we will call this one, Coffee Types. Excellent stuff. So now I can happily start to work in this. So stylistically, the starting point for this is really going to come from my background. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to import one of the Digital Juice animated canvases. And these are all from collection 5. And we can just have a little look where we've got. So I want to get that kind of papery feel here. But esoteric signs is maybe a little bit too busy. Same with glowing pride, that may be a little bit too fast, which is why we're looking at our wallpaper scene here. So this has got that sort of papery texture that I really want, really like. It's also got a color palette that I think I could work with as well. It's got a good sort of warm coffee color palette. I'm just going to double click and import that in. So let's just take that, bring it down to our underneath here, remove the background we had before. And I think it might be just a little bit too fast at the moment. We don't want it having too much impact on the animation because there's a lot of stuff that's going to go on. So we keep this one nice and smooth. So I'm just going to right click and then just slow it down. So time stretch. We'll make this maybe only 25% of the speed that we had before. I kind of like the fact that it's a bit staccato. So I'm going to turn the frame blending off. And I think that fits in quite nicely with the mood of the piece. So it is going to be a bit sort of choppy. I kind of like that. So let's take a quick look at our cup now. So I'm going to turn on the saucer fill and the saucer outline as well. And basically, let's just open these up and show you what they are. Basically, all these are here are just 3 shapes that are going on to build this up. Now I drew the outline first, and if we open up the individual shapes, I've got the stroke turned on. So once I've built the outline up of my little saucer, all I did was then duplicate that up into my saucer fill, as I call it here, and that's got the exact same contents as the outline has, except instead of having the stroke turned on, see the visibility over here, we've got the fill turned on instead. And that gives me my nice bright red saucer. So this is going to be perfect to start to put in another texture in here. So I think that's the next thing that I need to do. So I'm going to pop over into Juicer. Now, if you're not familiar with Juicer, Juicer really is the hub of Digital Juice's products. I have all our products put in here, and we can, if we come over here and take a look at the some of the toolkits here, we can get nice little thumbnails going on of some of the animations. Or in this case, what I'm trying to do is have a look through the texture toolkit here, and I'm using the paper textures. We've just got a big list of all the different types of paper that we've got here. Nice thumbnails. We can see whether these are fully seamless, so we can tile these up, and you can even see the ones that have got alpha channels on as well. So this is very cool. Now I need a variety of different textures. I'm going to have a look for some textures for the cup. I need a texture for the milk and for the coffee as well. So let's take a little look down here and see what we've got. And we've certainly got plenty of textures to choose from. Here we go. So we've got some nice sort of, and if I like any of these, I can just do a quick export here, set my width and height, which is going to be fine, and find where I want to save them. I'll save them in my paper textures folder, and we can either export now or just add these to the batch, and then that pops into the batch window here. Let's take another couple. This looks like a good one maybe for the milk. Save those as my default settings from now on. Add that to the batch. We've got little feathers here, we kind of like those. Add that to the batch as well. And some swirls here, crinkled swirls, fantastic. Add those in, and we'll add that one, a cover story in as well for maybe for the cups there. So let's just render all of those out. And that then quickly generates up my files in the right size. And then we get my favorite little guitar twang there, which means that my render is complete. I can hit OK on that. Let's pop back into After Effects now. And I'll just come in and I'll just import that entire paper textures folder here. Cool, so now the great thing is we've got our fill layer in here, and all we want to do is just cover this up or fill this with our texture. And there's a number of different ways to do this in After Effects, but the simplest way I think for now for us is to just maybe drag our paper texture down here, which looks kind of nice, and I'm just going to drag that underneath the saucer fill, and then set my track matte to alpha matte. So that now cuts out my paper texture with the into the saucer. So if I hit S to bring up the scale and Shift and P to bring up position as well, I can now reposition this and scale this as necessary. Now this is kind of cool. If I want to scale it down smaller, see quite a lot smaller here, it's not extending out to the edges of the saucer anymore, but that's not a problem, because as we saw in Juicer, these are fully seamless textures here. So what we can do in After Effects is if we add in a tile here, we go to maybe, we can either use a Repper tile or just CC Tiler here, and just drag that over the top of our PNG file. So I can now extend that out so it's going to be big enough to fit in the entire saucer. But I can then change the scaling on here. Let's just zoom in on this and just see what's going on. I can then change the scaling within the tiler, and that will give me a nice seamless tiling texture going on there. So without the effect and with the effect turned on there. So I've still got complete control here. So if I want to see the texture quite a lot, we can make this a little bit bigger. So we'll take that to about 26%. Cool, and let's do the same thing with the cup fill as well. And we use the same paper as we had before, so I'm just going to duplicate up this layer here, bring that up underneath the cup fill here, turn the visibility of the cup fill off here, so we're now just left with the cup outline. Now if I want to, which I do, I want to turn the outlines back on. This was generated up in exactly the same way as the saucer was. So one version that just had the stroke on, one version that just had the fill on here. Cool, so we are now getting somewhere. So you can see what a difference just actually adding in a motion background and a couple of textures makes. We can start to see the style of the piece coming together already. Cool, so let's start filling these things up with liquid, shall we? Let's take a first look at my water and see what the water's doing. Now the water at the moment, if we look without any other effect, all it is just a blue solid moving up down from or popping in down from the bottom of the cup and moving up and animating on. So that's our water. I think we won't start with the water, we will start with the coffee, which is probably about the same as well. So let's come into the coffee, except the coffee of course brown, moving up and then just sort of staying there for the rest of the time before it disappears out the end. Now how does it stay in the cup? Well, above every single one of these textures we've got a duplicate version of the cup fill, which is the same one that we're using to let's just turn that on. Yeah, the same one we're using to cut out the paper texture on the cup. So we can see we just duplicated that up, put it above the coffee, set our coffee again to alpha matte, boom, and instant filling of our cup. Cool, so let's take a look at our coffee texture. So we've got crinkle curls here. Let's just bring that in. We'll turn our coffee off and we'll just do the crinkle curls here. So we'll set that to alpha again, as we did previously. Position that over here somewhere. And let's get us to the final part here. The coffee is going to be an espresso coffee, so it's not going to fill too much of the cup, but it is going to be the basis there. So that's going to be our end point. We'll do the CC tiler on it again. And tile that up and just move that down so we can get some nice texture going in there. So just put the tiler down to 15%. Cool. And let's animate that up. Well, we know we want it to finish about here, so that's our in position. I'll add a keyframe there, come down, and then we'll just bring it down below the cup level, and that just pops up. Fantastic. But it's looking a little bit cut out. I mean, I like the cut out look here, but let's see what we can do to maybe give it something else a little bit here, make it look a little bit more liquid. And I'm going to look for a turbulence effect here, this turbulence displace. So let's put that on our crinkled curls here, and let's just play that back. Doesn't seem to be doing anything. But if we have a look at the effects over here, we've got a few controls to help us. So we've got an amount, which is how much it's going to be distorting, and that's quite high out there. And the size, so you can see as I bring that up, the distortion pattern gets bigger, so more of the effect, or more of the pattern moves. So I bring that down, You can see we get smaller, more localized areas of disturbance. So I kind of like that size 24. Take the amount down a little bit. We don't need too much. 14. But that's still not animating. So what is it that makes it animate? Well, it's this evolution over here. So add a keyframe right at the very start. And as I take the evolution up, you can see that now starting to wiggle about a bit. So I'll put the evolution to about 10 or so. We'll just do a quick RAM preview just to make sure that that's not too much or too little. That's all right, but it's still fitting, generally speaking, into the box that we had it before. So if I put my pinning now to none, I get a much nicer crinkly edge going on there. Much more sort of liquid. Cool. So now we've got our paper texture animating in and then distorting slightly using the turbulent displace to give it a bit more of a liquidy tone. That's maybe still a little bit too much. Coffee's going to be rather flat, so we'll take an amount down to about 5 there. There we go, much nicer. So what we could do now is add a another little filter over here just to change the colours up a little bit. So I'll go to colour correction, hue saturation. We'll touch the saturation down a little bit so it's fitting in with the desaturated look in the background, and maybe push the hue over a little bit, giving it a slightly redder look. Again, matching quite nicely with the other stuff in the background. I don't like using the master lightness here. I don't think it gives a very nice effect, but if we do it quite subtly, a -7, that's not too bad. So before, after, there we go. Great, so let's build up the other liquids. Well, if you remember back to the work in progress that we were looking at here, we're looking at 4 different types of coffee. We've got the starting coffee of the espresso, which is really the base of our coffees going on there. We're then going to add a little bit of water into it to make an Americano. So let's come into our water now. So we look back to the animatic down here, or the rough draft. So I've got my water animating in here, and it's going in behind the coffee, so that we're keeping that nice sort of coffee edge going on here. Of course, let's do that. Let's come in and find our new water texture, maybe the icy flames. Just going to replace the regular texture in my animatic just by alt clicking and dragging that down, and that replaces the texture for me here without getting rid of anything else. So we keep the animation going on. We've got my cup fill above it still, so I can now turn my alpha matte on the water. Turn that track matte to alpha matte. Now I've got my water coming on here. So I want to reuse, we've got quite a lot of stuff to do, so I want to recycle as much of this as possible. So if I come in and copy all of these 3 filters that we just put on the coffee. So edit, copy, come back to my water down here, animated this one on with a linear wipe, but we could have just done that with the regular transforms we did before. But let's paste in those other 3 here with CC Tiler. Put the linear wipe underneath that. And we'll check out our turbulent displays here. Maybe turn that up a little bit because it is a bit more watery. So turn that amount to 30. Cool. And with the hue saturation, let's just reset what we've got there. I want to make this a lot more watercolored. We can even turn colorize on here and just get everything nice and sort of same sort of shape of blue. So we'll take the hue to 200 and saturation to about 38 there. Nice and watery. And I'll just quickly do that. Same thing for the foam as well. So we'll come in, we'll bring the foam up. That's also linear wiping on as well. But we'll do the same things we did for the water. Paste those three in. Remember to put the tiler at the top. And we'll reset the hue and saturation there. In fact, I'll get rid of that because all I want to do with this one is make it a bit brighter. So let's come to our curves and just push that up. Now I want to get it so that it's white, but also so that there's still a distinction between our cup and the milk. So we've got the foam. Actually, the foam itself, we can probably have that white. Don't want to blow anything out. That's a nice white there. Cool. But as the foam comes up at the end, so does the milk. So let's swap that milk out as well. We'll actually take the same texture as we had with the foam, and we'll take that on the milk. Just need to remember to have that selected first, then Alt, drop down to replace. So now if we take a little look, we should have a milk texture. Let's turn that on so we can actually see it. Where's our milk texture? There we go. That's the grey one. Perfect. So the milk texture comes in and then the foam pops out on top. So again, we'll take the effects that we had before from the foam. So the tiler, the turbulent displace and the curves, and we will paste those into the milk. Remember to put the tiler on the top. And let's now reset our curves here and get a decent or different color going on for the milk itself. So we can see these are two separate entities, and the milk is going to be a lot flatter. So our turbulent displace, we can turn that all the way down, back down to 5, and the CC tiler. We can take that down as well to 22. So we can see that this is, it's still the same basic texture going on, but now even if we're looking at it from a distance, we can see we do have separation going on between the three elements. Actually, with the foam, let's come back and maybe make that even brighter. There we go. And the milk we can probably also make a little bit brighter to take it away from the cup. Cool, so now we can see we've got coffee, milk, and foam. And as we change from a cafe latte to a cappuccino, we can see the milk goes down and the foam level goes up. Actually, the amount of foam goes up, the foam level itself stays the same. I can also see that our coffee amount is probably a little bit high now, so we're riding a little bit high on the coffee. So we'll just come back and we'll swap that out quite quickly. Go up, find our coffee layer here, hit U to bring out all the keyframes, and I can just take this down just a wee bit. Boom. Water comes up, water goes down, milk comes up, foam comes up. and the milk level then sinks to make a nice cappuccino. And then everything goes down here. So we will animate on our coffee position, add another keyframe there, and take that down as well. Boom, boom, boom. Lovely stuff. Let's do a quick round preview, see how that's working out. There we go, lovely. So the coffee's coming up, the water's coming in to make an Americano, disappearing to make a cafe latte, and then add more foam to create a cappuccino. And that looks just delicious. Now, as the water level goes down, or the milk level goes down here, I want to add just a kick that animation up a little bit, because it's a little bit sort of weak at the moment. So it just sort of pops down. So I'm going to make that a little bit stronger. So we'll come just into our milk here. I'm going to animate up the amount on our turbulent displace. So set a keyframe up here, and I can then hit U to see it down on the timeline there. When it gets back into place here, I'll add another keyframe at 5, because that's really where I want it to be. And then in the middle of these two, I can whack that all the way up to 82. So as it pops down, we get a little bit of a bigger displacement going on there. And then it can settle down, actually over a bit of a longer time. And the foam itself, that can also probably come up here. We can also keyframe out the amount of the foam here. So add a keyframe on the effect controls, hit U, come over to the timeline. And we can then settle that down to about 20, 18. There we go, 18. Just a small little thing. That should just calm it down just a wee tad. Okay, so now we've got the background sorted out. We've got the textures going on in our cup. We need to add our text. And currently the text is, well, we'll do the main text here for the coffee types. And currently that is just a straight font changing on and off. Now it's plain and clear, but it's not really fitting in with the rest of the style of the animation here. So what we're going to do is we're going to kick those fonts up a little bit by using some of the Digital Juice fonts. Okay, so let's pop right back into the juicer again. Let's pop into our fonts area here and look at the Digital Juice fonts we've got now. Now I've got collection 10 installed here. So this has got a number of different fonts. We've got the Disco Ball, Shadow Cut, Play Clay. Tons of cool starting fonts. But the fonts themselves here aren't really the the total power of the Digital Juice fonts. We're going to use Shadow Cut because I like this one. And let's take a look at our standard Digital Juice library here. Because these fonts can actually have lots of different layers going on inside them and lots of different textures coming on. So we can get some really different and unique font styles very quickly, just using basically the same font shapes or the same font, the font volume. So let's start with a porous paper, and I'll drag that over into my batch panel now. Come into settings, and this opens up a new window where we can basically edit everything that we want to. So I'm going to edit my layout here, and here I can change my canvas size to something that I know is going to fit all my fonts, all my text. I'm going to do 1200 by 300 here. If I just double click on that, Command A or Control A to select all, and we'll take my first one, which is going to be Espresso. By hitting the R, I can reset that to 0, 0. Now I can come in and edit the font. Now, when we look at editing the fonts, we can see that the font itself is made up of loads of different sorts of layers, including our textured base, shading, thin shading, all of these things coming in to add extra depth to our style. And this is done and we can delete layers as we want to, or we can edit layers up. So I'll come to my texture base here, come in and browse my library. So I can see my standard textures that get installed as part of the Digital Juice fonts, but also I can see my paper textures that came as part of the texture pack. So I've got a whole load of really cool paper textures to choose from. And if we like that, we can hit apply. We can add some, if I come to effects over here, I can add some effects to this. So say I wanted to change this to a different color. I could do a simple colorize or a duotone or a tritone here. So with a simple color, we can just come in, set this over here, and we can put it in, slightly more fitting colors for any particular project. We can mix that back as well with the composite with original, so we can get a nice sort of 50-50 or 60-40 with the original one there. What we can also do is we can build up other textures as well. So we add a new layer. I can add another texture base over the top. And add a texture fill. In the effects, we can come in, browse this here, maybe add a slight acid influence to it, hit apply on that, and we can change our blend mode. So maybe we want to just combine the textures of the two there. So I'm going to stick that to multiply, maybe a soft light or a hard light, and then mix that back. Again, using just the opacity here. Okay, so if I set that to multiply now and mix that in a little bit, then we can actually pick up all the excellent sort of graininess from the layer that's actually in the texture there. So we've got a much deeper effect now. So you can see we can get some really nice and complex effects by really just playing around with these layer controls here. There's tons of stuff you can do with these. But we can also save these out if you like what you've got. You can save these out as bentest001. Give it some keywords so you can search on these. So we'll call this paper. We'll call this distressed. So if we have been playing around, we've got some unused effects or some hidden layers that we've just turned off and don't need them anymore. We can get rid of them at this point as well. We can also upload them to community fonts. As long as we're signed into our account here, we can then upload those for the whole community to use. When I come into browse again over here, I can look at my Digital Juice fonts and take a look at the different ones that I've got saved. I can apply that there and we can see exactly what I've got going on here. Cool, so I'm happy with what we've got there. So I'm going to come in, choose my font here, or my folder for the fonts that I'm going to save that out as, and just render that selected. And that will then go off and render my file for me. Now if I pop into After Effects, we can come in, let's import that folder for us. So I can then come back to where my regular espresso text is, put that over the top there, turn on my guides, and then place that where it needs to be. And the thing about having it just as a regular layer now is that we can, make this fit in a little bit, make it stand out, I should say, a little bit more. So I'll add a first drop shadow to really make it stand out a little bit, and add another drop shadow. Let's just duplicate that with Command D or Control D. Set our softness really high on that. Distance, take that distance down. And take the opacity down on that as well. So it's actually really important that we're doing that, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to create a little plinth just so that it pops a little bit more, just something for it to stand on. So it just comes out a little bit more. I'll add just a tiny bit of softness there. Now the idea behind this infographic is also to act as a sort of pronunciation guide. So there's going to be a voiceover that's going to be speaking the word, and as the word is said, the text is going to come in phonetically. So for example, with espresso, then we're going to take that in the various different consonants here, just as an interesting way of bringing on the text. So if I have my espresso text selected here, just going to add a mask over the whole top, bring that in so we can just see the first letter, and we'll keyframe that up. So we'll add a keyframe on the mask path here. We'll right click on the toggle hold keyframe here, so that when we do come in a few frames later, we move this in. Espresso. It just animates straight from one frame to the other. Rather than giving us a linear move, we get this popping on effect that we were after. And then we'll do the O at the end. And we'll check that for timing. Espresso, espresso, espresso. Okay, so now we've got the first one done. I'm going to use the miracle of editing to just get the other ones done for the Americano, Cafe Latte, and Cappuccino. And we're back. So now I've got the Espresso, Americano, Cafe Latte, and Cappuccino all sorted out in exactly the same way. The process was the same all the way through. Now to take the text off, what I've done is I've used a, well, let's show you. Let's just solo this out. What I've done is I've used one of the Liquid Grunge video clips from the Compositors Toolkit Volume 3. And you can see that's just water or liquid popping through. And what I've done is just reversed it, as you can see in the timeline with this little stripy thing here. And I've put we have a posterized time effect going on it as well. We could use the filter that I've done there, or I hit U to bring this up. I've also done it as an expression down here, but it's doing the same thing. It's basically just playing it back at 6 frames a second rather than the regular, or 25 in my case. So all that's doing is just going backwards through there, and I've set that up as a trusty track matte again. So as that moves through, so we can set that to alpha matte there. Then make sure we're at the right place, so just move that over. There we go, good. So then that's just working to cut it out. So it almost looks like it's ripping it out in some sort of way, but it's just sort of taking it off. And because we've got the posterized time going on, it's not doing it in a sort of straightforward sort of way. It's coming in sort of that same kind of staccato rhythm that we've tried to keep with the background as well. And that's gone along for all of them with exactly the same clip. Of course, we've really come a long way from where we started with our little graphic coming in here, but it's the same sort of information, but it's being told in a much more stylistic sort of way. So to bring this all together, because I know we're running out of time a little bit here, I'm just going to add a new adjustment layer over the top. I'm just going to add a quick color over the top of everything, just sort of really tie it together. So color correction, curves. Let's just come to the blue. We'll take the blue down a little bit here just to make the yellows We'll make the white slightly yellow. Come in with the greens. Touch the greens down a little bit. Take the touch of the greens down in the white and take that above there. Add a little bit more red here. And then just in RGB, we'll just give it a little bit of a small S-curve just to crunch the contrast up just a little bit there as well. So that's without the tone, and that's with the tone. I just add a little vignette as well. Let's just do a quick vignette. So come in, just make a black solid. Bring in our ellipse tool, just cut that out. Turn that to subtract. Really feather that out a load. Bring the expansion up a little bit there. Soft light that in. Maybe overlay. No, soft light looks good today. And take the opacity down on that. Maybe just to about 20-25%. So just without those last two things. And then with those last layers on there. And it is always just about the lot of small finishing details there. And we'll just add in the small detail text there. And this stuff was literally just drawn in using a blank paint layer, and then just drawing it in with the pen and tablet using the write on effect. Great, well that's it for me for now. I hope this has been useful for you, just to see how much of an effect and how simple it is to just replace regular flat solids with interesting textures, and just how much that can bring things alive. And then just how we can use a few simple filters to bring those simple textures also to that next level as well. Now, the other thing to explore is the flexibility of the Digital Juice fonts as well. We barely even scratched the surface on this. There's so much you can do, and such a wide amount of resources you can do. So if you don't really want to go in and create your own, you do have hundreds of presets to start from, even if you don't take the preset yourself, just to use that as a base to move forwards. Cool. Well, thanks for joining me on the journey to take our infographic from here to here. Well, that's it for me for now. My name is Ben Brownlee. Don't forget to leave a comment. Everyone that does leave a comment will be eligible to go into a prize draw. And you can see the competition rules on the same page you're at the moment. All right, thanks for now, and hopefully I'll see you again soon. Take care.